Excellent. How we doing?
Setting, this is a regular meeting. It is 9:31 a.m. We're off to a late start this morning. This session is set to go until 12:15 today. This is a hybrid meeting. We're at 3000 Pacific Avenue, room 110. For public virtual attendance, you may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel. We'll start our agenda today with the review. I'm Carolina Mejia. I'm the chair of the board. To my left is Commissioner Gary Edwards. To my who's usually to my right, Vice Chair Ty Menzer is excused for this meeting. I believe he will be joining us
He will
later,
join us in a few minutes. Yes.
later on for this meeting. Also in the boardroom, we have County Manager Ramiro Chavez, as well as Assistant County Manager Rob Kelger, and we have Budget
Fiscal manager.
Fiscal Manager Nicole Martinez. And the first item we're going to be doing is the review of the Board of County Commissioners draft agenda for our meeting of August 15th, 2023. We'll call the meeting to order. The Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Edwards. Then it's the approval of the Tuesday, August 15th, 2023 agenda. There will be an opportunity for the public to address the board and county manager's update.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Commissioner, you may be receiving some public testimony related to TC Media. And as you have received, we have received in your inbox emails. We have drafted our response, and so we'll continue to respond to those emails. You may receive some public testimony related to that. I do have a couple of updates that I'd like to share with you this afternoon in the public. Our own Public Works Director, Jennifer Walker, she has received the 2023 American Public Works Association Empowering Teams Award. This award recognizes public works teams who are making exceptional advancement in improved public works services. So hopefully I can chat with Jennifer. She can come this afternoon and she can be part of that conversation if she's not listening right now. Also, I'd like to share the board received an email from the office of Senator Cantwell, stating the county has been awarded $3 million from the Federal Department of Transportation under the National Culvert Removal Replacement. And those $3 million are allocated to the Green Cove Creek Fish Barrier Project. And again, this is just an incredible uplift. I don't remember the last time that we actually got a direct appropriation from the federal government. And this is nothing but remarkable to make sure the public works staff who has been behind this has been recognized this afternoon. But again, it's a $3 million, and that is a great investment on the Green Cove Creek Fish Barrier Project. Those are my two updates.
Questions, comments, Commissioner Edwards?
Nope, sounds good. Sounds like we're benefiting somewhat. Thank you.
Yes. Later on in the future, can we get the breakdown of how those $3 million, because I know that there was a point where we were looking at,
Right.
bonding out from
It was a loan.
like a loan, and we were just looking at different options to be able to cover this project, and I'm just wondering how those $3 million can help aid us where it's gonna, what's the financial plan moving forward?
We'll bring an updated financial plan for next week.
And again, like this money might be coming later on and we might still need to loan out, right? But just, I think it would just be great. But congratulations, really. I was very excited when I received that email. Really made my Saturday. Just seeing that we were able to get that appropriation of $3 million for this project. That was completely unplanned, but it just really helped us. So thank you to the staff from Public Works for really working on this. And congratulations to Jennifer. That's awesome.
That's great.
Okay, consent items, there's two. First one is from the auditors. It's approval of the voucher list for the week of July 31st.
Yeah, Madam Chair, this is for your consideration, the approval of the voucher list for the week of July 31st, 2023, for a combined amount of $4,666,309.42. This particular item is your consent agenda, since we didn't have any expenditures related to the tenant improvements of this building.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
And no questions from me. Next item is the request to cancel outstanding warrants.
You reviewed this item last week. This is a yearly action. The financial services from the auditor's office is requesting for the board to take. And this is in accordance to RCW 3956-040, where the board takes an action to cancel outstanding warrants. In this case, it's 119 warrants for your consideration. Out of the 119, 105 are jury services. And those varies between, I don't know, 80 cents to all the way to $150. There also one 14 miscellaneous, one of which has $3,900 outstanding warrant. And again, a total of 119. We corrected the number of warrants on your agenda today, and that reflects the 119 for your consideration.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
No questions for me. Moving on to department items, starting off with Central Services, item 4A, large vehicle surplus service contract.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last week, we had a conversation related to the services the Ritchie Brothers auctioneers provide to the county. Thurston County has continued to utilize this company for the sale of heavy vehicles and equipment since 2015. In our experience on this company, Ritchie Brothers has been nothing but a good experience overall. They specialize in heavy equipment sales and a global customer base, and the auction services provides both are provided both in person and online, and it has been effective. For your consideration today is for you to waive the competitive bidding requirements in accordance to the Thurston County purchasing policy and authorize the county manager to execute the agreement with Ritchie Brothers for 1 year. And we'll come back with you next year if that is the case.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
No questions for me. Commissioner's Office, item 5A, Experience Olympian Beyond MOU.
Thank you. As a matter of background, back in 2014, the Board of County Commissions established the Thurston Bountiful Byway. The byway is in need of professional marketing services, and it was a great action the board took at that time to create this bountiful byway. It's well defined, and the areas well defined, the roads, it includes in the byway. And some of the farms within the byway have banked on the opportunity to be the agritourism activities. We have a lot of distilleries and we have a lot of farms that benefit from this. So through the years, the board saw the opportunity to partner with the Experience Olympia and Beyond to help us manage this particular byway through their board. We have been engaging with an MOU for the last few years, and for your consideration is to renew this memorandum of understanding with Experience Olympia and Beyond for them to provide the marketing on the Bountiful Byway. This is really administrative MOU, does not include any financial contributions under this document. But the county, as you know, contributes on a yearly basis to the Experience Olympia and Beyond, and that's separate from this MOU. Any questions?
No questions, thank you.
No questions for me. I was looking, sorry. I'm used to looking over here for. Okay, Community Planning and Economic Development, item 6A, interlocal agreement renewal for voluntary stewardship program.
Item 6A and 6B are related, and this is associated, as you described, Madam Chair, with the voluntary stewardship program. The voluntary stewardship program is managed by the Thurston Conservation District, and that is the organization in this particular agreement is intended to continue. This proposed agreement with the Thurston Conservation District goes from July 1st, 2023 to June 30, 2025 for the total cost of $220,000. And this has been a very effective program in coordination with the community as part of the voluntary stewardship program. Item 6B is the agreement with the state, the Washington State Conservation Commission, and for us to receive the money. And that is the next item on your agenda, and again, has the same performance period from July 1st, 2023 to June 30, 2025. The agreement that we have with the state, the Conservation Commission, includes a $240,000. And last week you asked why the agreement with the Thurston Conservation Districts for only $220,000, because the $20,000 is administrative fees, because the county supports this effort through Josh's group, CPED. Any questions on those two items?
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions.
No questions for me, thank you. Okay, moving on to 6C, set a public hearing for ground mound sub-area plan, BC recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is for your consideration to set a public hearing for the ground mount sub-area plan. Back in a couple of updates, the Planning Commission review this item in 4 open houses between 2018, 2020. And the Planning Commission review over 6 work sessions and held a public hearing between 2022 and 2023. The Planning Commission provided recommendations. The board reviewed those recommendations back in May 2023 and also on August 2023, where the board confirmed going in the split way. In the split ways, assuming the recommendations Planning Commission moving forward. And the second is to continue to assess the citizens' initiatives associated with this plan. And that is part of the split pathway the staff described to the board. And again, this item is for you to set a public hearing, September 19, 2023 at 3:30 in the afternoon. And depending on the public testimony, we'll schedule a follow-up briefing before you consider taking a final action. Maya?
I don't have anything to add, thank you.
Questions?
No
Commissioner
questions,
Edwards?
thank you.
No questions for me. Okay, moving on to Public Health and Social Services, item 7A, request for proposals for Developmental Disabilities Department Community Project Grants.
Thank you. This request comes from Public Health and Social Services for you to consider authorizing the issuance of requests for proposals for services, programs, and community outreach that enhances and increases services to the community that supports the health and well-being of individuals with developmental disabilities and their families. This request for proposals provides up to $1 million, and that comes from the Thurston County Millage Fund and also from Mason County Millage Fund, because those services are between the two counties. Last week, you asked a little conversation where the millage fund comes. That explanation comes from the general property tax levy. It's something that we discussed last week, but I'm more than happy to go back and give you additional perspective where the millage fund is coming from. If the board authorizes this, staff will review the request for proposals and will bring back some recommendations for you to award those contracts. And, Mark Moffett is, by the way, this contracts, they may be the result of the request for proposals will have a performance dates from January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2025. Mark?
Yes, good morning, Commissioners, County Manager. Commissioner Mejia, you asked me about how much was in our balance for that. Right now, it looks like there's 1.2 million in the account, so more than enough to meet this, because this is for 2 years, the 1.5.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that follow-up information, Mark.
You bet.
Questions?
No more questions, thank you.
Okay, so. Okay, great, thank you. Moving on to item 7B, approval of professional services agreements with contractors for supported employment, high school transition, job foundation, and community inclusion services.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Last week I had some questions related to the process in which how those services were procured. I had the opportunity to receive an email from Brandon Weber, our internal auditor, and he worked with staff at Public Health in clarifying my questions. This in fact has been the result of a request for qualifications that was issued, and those services have been in place for quite some time based on that request for qualifications. So the internal auditor didn't have any issues, and at this point, I recommend for you to considering awarding the contracts to Career Quest, Center Force, Exceptional Foresters, Morningside, and Radius for a combined amount of $5,428,260.60. The performance of this contract is from July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. And I can probably give you additional perspective as to what this contract will do that is really related to enhance the livelihood of those individuals in our communities with developmental disabilities. Mark?
I have nothing further to add.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No further questions, thank you.
No questions for me, thank you.
Thank you.
For the follow-up on the questions, Mark.
You bet. I appreciate the perspective too, Romero.
I was gonna say thank you for the follow-up. Okay, Public Works, item 8A, authorization to issue a request for proposal to step tank pumping services contract.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You also reviewed this item last week. As you know, as you are aware, Public Works operates approximately 250 septic tanks, pumps and tanks in the Boston Harbor and Olympic View community. And this is a step system, meaning the solids remain on the tanks, and the fluids goes into the wastewater in Boston Harbor, or perhaps on the community drain field, Olympic View. The result of this step system, the county is required to pump those solids out of the tanks on a periodic basis. So this particular item is for you to consider authorizing the department to go with a request for proposals to secure the services of the contractor for the septic tank effluent pump systems. Great conversation last week with Commissioner Edwards. I think staff had a good perspective as to what the board would like to see on this, making sure there is a mindful approach as to how we go through the process on pumping the systems. We've taken a little more information as to the state of those systems as opposed to just going through a periodic basis. And I think that was the perspective Commissioner Edwards provided. The staff is tracking on this. If you have any questions, Joe is here to answer.
Questions, Joe? Oh, questions, oh, I am out of it today. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No, my questions have been answered. Thank you very much.
Comments, Joe, that's, any additional comments that you wanted to add? That's what I was wanting to ask you, but.
No additional comments.
Thanks. No questions for me, thank you. Okay, moving on, ordinance updating the Thurston County Water and Sewer Utility Code.
Yeah, items A, B, and 8C are related, and those are related to the consolidation approach the Public Works has taken in consolidating all the water and sewer utilities here in the county. It has been a long process, community engagement with the communities who are be affected by this effort, and I believe all have been supported of this particular effort. I think is going to allow the county to be more streamlined in the process and be a little bit more financially responsible to address the needs of those utilities. So the first item that you have before you, item 8B, is to approve an ordinance updating the Thurston County Water and Sewer Code, which was at the 1509, 1510, and 1512, to align all those utilities into this combined fund. And item 8C is approves a resolution amending the Board of County Commissioners establishing the principles and governance in management of those utilities. And I think it was great conversation last week as to how this is intended to be. And without going back to the same conversation, Tim's here to answer any questions.
Tim, anything you'd like to add?
No, I don't think I have anything to add at this point. The board was briefed on August 3rd, and the issues have the support of the communities, and I would be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, but I might reiterate what Tim mentioned, that if the public is interested in viewing this discussion, it's on our agenda setting from August 5th, I think. Is that right, Tim? Was it
I believe that is right, and we did have an exclusive briefing on August 3rd, I believe.
Okay, thank you very much.
Probably August 1st, Gary.
Pardon?
August 5th is Saturday. It's probably August 1st.
Okay, good enough. We can review it. It's on tape. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So with that, any questions, Commissioner?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, no questions for me. Then we'll review our standing items, and that will conclude our Commissioners meeting for this afternoon. Next on our agenda is a review of the Board of County Commissioners draft agenda for a meeting of August 22nd, 2023. The Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Vice Chair Menso. Approval of the Tuesday, August 22nd, 2023 agenda. There'll be an opportunity for the public to address the board. County Manager's update. There's only one consent item, item 3A from the Auditor's Office, which is the approval of the voucher list.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will follow up with any particular comments they may receive this afternoon, next week. Item 3A for your consideration is to approve the voucher list for the week of August 7th, 2023, for a combined amount of $1,311,960.13. This item is in your consent agenda for your consideration, since we do not have any expenditures related to the tenant improvements of this building.
Thank you. Questions?
No questions, thank you.
No questions for me. Moving on to department items. 4A from the Commissioner's Office, Thurston County Internal Auditing Policy.
For your consideration, the Internal Auditing Committee have been working with the internal auditor to update the internal auditing policy. This has been through review through the many stakeholders here in the county, and this is ready for your consideration and approval. The purpose of this policy is to outline authority, purpose, and responsibilities of the Thurston County Internal Audit Committee and internal audit functions. These distinct yet interrelated roles are outlined in two major sections of this policy, which is the Internal Auditing Committee Charter as well as the Internal Audit Charter. This collectively make us a more strong organization. I believe you have been receiving good feedback in some of the internal audit reports the internal auditor provides, and this is on the oversight of the Internal Audit Committee. The Internal Audit Committee, as you may recall, is formed by the county treasurer, the county auditor, and the county manager. We meet on a monthly basis. We go through all the work, and I believe this policy really cements the activities for both the internal auditor as well as the Internal Audit Committee. Robin, anything to add?
Nope, you covered it very well.
And Mary Hall is here, the county auditor. Have any questions as well? Mary,
Auditor
anything to
Hall?
add?
Hi, Romero kind of summarized it fairly well, but this position has been in place for 30 years, and I really think it's served the county well. So just to give you a little bit of a summary of what this policy does, it updates the language to reflect the most current internal auditor standards or internal audit standards. And these standards dictate what should be included in the audit committee and the internal audit charters. It adds additional details on the roles and responsibilities of the internal audit committee. And it also clarifies the membership of the internal audit committee, which is Romero mentioned, includes the auditor, treasurer, and county manager. It provides a minimum requirement for meeting frequency and also the content, and also includes additional information on the nature of activities to be carried out by the internal auditor. It provides additional information on objectivity, independence, and confidentiality, and clearly outlines the respective responsibilities of the internal auditor and the offices and departments being audited. And for the offices and departments who might be listening, what this policy requires is very reasonable, and it's in all of our best interests. So it essentially includes that you participate in the audit process, objectively consider any of the recommendations, and we are hand holders. We're here to make things better, and also to respond to the recommendations that you receive in writing. And I think Brandon Weber has done a fantastic job. There's certainly no lack of work for him. In fact, Commissioner Mejia had asked that the auditor's office include a second internal auditor in our budget request, which we have done, which will really further strengthen our financial posture. And I think if you talk to anybody outside the county commerce secretary or state auditor's office, they would say that this office serves us very well, and I think is a large reason why we have been audit finding free for the number of years we have been, which saves the county a substantial amount of money, because when you're in a high risk category, your audit costs go way up. So it definitely pays for itself. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I know Brandon is also on this call.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes. Does this make reference to changes in any state law that requires any adjustments to the policy?
It does not.
And are these changes listed? Is there a red line copy or something like that?
We could I believe, Brandon, we could provide one of those, correct? I mean, one does exist or did exist that we originally looked at.
Yeah, there really isn't a red line. Most of this was a rewrite as far as formatting and structure. We do have an existing internal audit committee charter and internal audit charter that formed the foundation of this, but there was a lot of changes that were required additionally to incorporate it within the new policy template. So it really wasn't sort of your traditional edit where you have an existing policy and then we make edits and track changes where you can see that difference. So there's significant changes, but again, it built on the existing framework we had already in place.
And I will distribute a copy if you like, review that before next week.
Okay, that's kind of where I was going. Good. And the public can view this at some point, somewhere along the line.
It is posted online.
It's posted online.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I do not have any questions. I probably do have some suggestions on the charter as we move to 5 commissioners. I think it would be great for a newer commissioner to maybe like sit in on those meetings. I think it's a great way to kind of know the ins and goings of government, like especially this committee, and to just kind of just see how, just the different role. So if that's something like maybe a new commissioner would be interested in next year, to kind of sit in with the county manager and maybe just learn about how this internal committee plays like just this gigantic role in making sure that we get clean audits. And I think it's important.
I think it's a great idea.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Auditor Hall, for joining us.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Okay, we'll move on to item 4B, which is contract for federal government relations assistance.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a follow-up to the conversation the board had, maybe over a week ago, where the board like to explore the services of what we call a federal lobbyist. And the federal lobbyist, as you know, there's perhaps a little bit of a gap as to how Thurston County can access to the federal government in terms of the lobbying activities as well as on the many federal grants that are available. The board agree in moving forward with this trial contract for the remainder of the year. So for your consideration is to have this contract with Strategist 360. The Strategist 360 is a firm that offering government relations, public affairs, advocacy, research, and communication services at the federal and state and local levels. Robin Campbell, Commissioner Mejia, and myself, they have an opportunity to interview this particular outfit. And I have to tell you, they bring good background experience. And I think it will be great to go through this process and determine the effectivity of this federal lobbying activities. So this is a contract, and again, it goes from September through December 2023. It has an amount of $20,000. At this point, we're not asking the board to any additional appropriation. There is enough funding on the Commissioner's Office budget to cover this cost.
Questions, Commissioner?
Robin, any?
Oh, Robin, sorry. Questions?
My only question would be, does our current state, Deborah, is she kind of in the loop here with, I know she's not gonna be involved because it's a federal issue, but
I think to answer your question, going through this trial period with this federal lobbyist, I think it will allow us to see how the effectiveness of their services are and maybe find a nexus with Deborah Manguia to see if there's an opportunity. I believe it is an opportunity, but at this point, I will not be able to tell you what those are.
yeah,
I
okay,
think this will be good to understand, because this is new for the county.
something to explore.
Yeah, this is new for the county.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think it provides us with an ability to see what we can get and as we look at a bigger contract and going out for that bigger contract and seeing like, is it worth the investment? So thank you for your work, Robin Romero, on this. Okay, item 4C, change order request, TC Connect.
I believe the board was briefed on this upcoming amendment with Sierra Cedar. And Sierra Cedar is the consultant who is helping us to deliver the ERP system, also known as the TC Connect. We have had some issues on the delivery with Sierra Cedar. And I think at this point, staff has worked mainly, I have to give kudos to Robin and Diana Benson, because they have taken the lead in having frank conversations with the consultant. They has put us to a point of somewhat have, not necessarily a reset, but perhaps a re-baseline of this project that will allow us to really deliver this project sooner rather than later, based on the conditions that we have been experienced. There is a cost associated with this. I don't think I have the cost in front of you, but I don't know if Robin has already a cost associated with this amendment. But that's really what it is amendment to the contract with Sierra Cedar related to the delivery of the ERP system, also known as the TC Connect. Robin.
So we're going to, we are still in negotiation. And last week and this week, we were in review of the, what precisely needs to be changed to make the system work. So we'll be pushing this item out. We wanted to leave it on the agenda for next week just to bring it to your attention and have an opportunity to have this conversation. Because once we do come to an agreement with Sierra Cedar on what precisely needs to be fixed, if you will, and how much we agree that would cost the county, we'll be bringing it to the board and we'll need it to move fairly quickly. Right now, there are 5 X's standing in for dollar signs. There's probably gonna be at least one more X in that number. I do expect it to be a 6-digit figure. But we have not gotten far enough in the review for Sierra Cedar to give us an initial estimate of what the additional work will cost. So we're gonna be negotiating that over the next 2 weeks with the assistance of GFOA. But we're so far into this project and the software is critical for the county.
Okay. Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
If we do come up with a dollar amount, what fund would that come out of?
I'm working on that. I don't have an answer for that yet.
That's
I'm
probably
being
not a
absolutely
sufficient
honest.
answer if we move
It's not a
forward.
good answer, but it's,
But we'll
you
bring that
know, being
information
as
next week. This is for next
straightforward
week's
as we can
agenda,
be.
so we'll make sure that we'll bring all those answers to your questions next week,
Yep.
Tuesday morning.
And I guess, are we up against a timeline that is
It won't be ready to
crucial?
vote on Tuesday. We'll be pushing it out until we've got answers. But are we up against a timeline? Yes, we are.
And what does that entail if it does not happen versus what we're doing now?
So if it doesn't happen, the longer we wait, the less likely it is that we will get the contractors that we need to actually perform the work, and the more it will cost. So that is the time pressure, along with the fact that Eden, our payroll system, will be decommissioned at some point in time, and we won't have support for payroll. That's what makes this new system critical. Otherwise, you know, we might have walked away from it at some point, but we have to have a replacement for Eden. And if we're gonna replace Eden, we need to have the associated systems. So, right now, we're looking at, it will probably, in the conversations with the vendor is that even if we start the first, this is August, even if we kind of restart the 1st of September with the programmers, there's no way we could stand this system up probably even on January 1. We're looking at April 1st or even July 1st of next year. We do want to start this on a calendar quarter, the beginning of a quarter. So if we miss certain deadlines, we just keep pushing it out in 3-month chunks. And again, the longer we wait, the less likely it is we will have the programmers we need on the consultant side, and the more it will cost us.
How does this fit with our IT folks and the IT committee and all that?
ITC was involved at the time we presented the need for a new system. That has not changed. And Sherry Ilg and her team work very closely. They are intimately involved in this project. Courtney is the project manager. We've brought in a system design architect to work on our side of the house, not in Sierra Cedar. So now we have someone with a technical skill to assess if what they're doing is gonna work and work across the system. Our IT shop is very intimately involved and will be not only to the point where the project is complete, but into the future. So our IT staff are learning the system as well so that they'll be able to support us as we go.
Thank you.
This is a extremely complex. And the objective, as Robin stated, is so critical because we bring into a single umbrella all the many systems that eventually is going to streamline many processes that we have here in the county. And it really is, Thurston County is behind the technology on this. Just about every single county has gone through this model.
I can't tell you how many counties I met when we attended the GFOA conference that are going through an ERP process. It seems to be a hot topic nationwide. And systems are old. Financial systems are old and they need to be replaced, and a lot of us are replacing them. And we're having challenges with the implementation of this new system, so is everyone else. So it's not all on the vendor, it's not the software we chose, it's part of implementing an ERP, unfortunately.
Yeah, change is difficult.
And change is very hard, yes, for everyone.
Could I have another follow-up on this? My concern is when we get into these complicated changes of technology, that I don't know, we get assured one thing, but possibly that doesn't always come to fruition, and we end up with problems. I know in our dispatch center right now, we're faced with that exact problem with our communication system. We were told one thing and we tried to get the expert analysis and opinion of all that, and still we ended up with a system that does not really service what we need. And so when you say others are going through it, have you guys got a group of individuals that from like positions that are getting together and trying to hash this stuff out to make sure we don't get stuck with something that portrays a fix but maybe is not?
Right, so part of this rebaselining, we have reassessed the county staff who are working on it, line staff who are experts at what they do, who are working with the developers. We have worked with Sierra Cedar. We're replacing at least half the development team with people who absolutely have government experience and have done this before for government. We think that's part of how we got to where we're at. In any case, we're replacing them. As I said, we've brought in a system architect to be paying attention to that kind of technical solution and making sure they are solutions and not things that are going to cause us problems down the road. And we are, we've brought GFOA in, their top person in ERP and system design with years of experience is now working with us every step of the way. And we are also addressing post-production issues as part of this contract. So we are trying very hard to lock things in place so that what we get is a system that works for us. Now, it's not going to be the same as what people do today. And as Romero said, change is hard. Getting to know a new system at first, every study will show you that doing a new process takes longer at first, but once you learn it, the things become streamlined. You learn the little tricks on how to make a new system work, just like you knew the old one. And things get better fairly quickly, but there's a learning curve.
And if I may, all what you hear, Commissioner, is exactly we're trying to avoid as much as we can what you stated. Really, we don't want to get into getting a system, and then we're going to be realizing that doesn't meet the expectations of the expectations of the county, the expectations of the staff, and actually the expectations of the business itself. So all this process is really what we're trying to do is to ensure the private product, the product that we get is gonna meet the needs of the business, the county. Along the way, change is a little bit difficult, and some processes have been in place for many years. The staff has been involved in those processes. They know, they understand it. And getting into a new system with a little bit of different processes is hard. But we're committed to make sure that this product meet the expectations of the business. In this case, it's the county business.
Is there anything that protects the county and kind of requires the vendor to accomplish what they say they can accomplish? I don't know if that's a penalty clause or I really don't, we get free licensing for 2 years or I don't know what it is, but it seems like oftentimes that's left out of the negotiation, so.
So
It
this,
just concerns me that we don't end up with what we think we're going to get. And at the same time, there's no accountability with the vendor.
so this contract is a deliverable-based contract. We don't pay until we've received a system. It's got some major milestones built in, so we've made small payments along the way. But the majority of the contract is not paid until we have the system that's working.
And
So,
Is Sherry and her crew kind of on top of this as we're
absolutely, yep.
going
And
along?
they are tightly involved in this,
Up to probably more than
Oh,
what
yeah.
you wants to hear.
way more than anyone ever dreamed. In fact, one of the things that we assessed was that having a project manager who was working on a number of projects wasn't working. So Courtney's time is now devoted 100% to this project only and making it work, ensuring that it will work.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if I'm satisfied or not myself yet, but I don't know. I'm not an expert
No,
enough to be
no
satisfied.
one's satisfied yet, which is why we're in negotiation with Sierra Cedar.
Okay, so then we'll be seeing an exact dollar number and we'll get kind of where it's coming from and
Yeah,
have
as
further conversation.
We'll have that by the end of the
We'll
month.
have that information for you next Tuesday. We'll delay this. item
Not
till-
next Tuesday, we won't have it, but by the end of the month.
Yeah, so we'll probably delay this item.
We'll be delaying this, but we want to leave it on so that we can have
Continue
these conversations. Right, we don't want to catch you unaware.
You,
Thank you.
you did make reference to somebody that's kind of in the middle of it, Courtney or?
Courtney, yeah, she's our
Project manager.
project manager
Okay.
in the IT department.
Okay. Moving on to community planning and economic development, item 5A. Set a public hearing, transition to member Board of County Commissioners Planning Commission amendments.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. As you are well aware, in 2024, Thurston County will move into a 5-member Board of County Commissioners representation. And staff has gone through the process of assessing all the many boards and commissions that makes a preference to the 3 commissioners and now will be 5 commissioners. One of the key boards and commissions, the Planning Commission. And the Planning Commission is organized under RCW 36.63. And also is included in the Thurston County Code 2.04. Staff provided a recommendation to you as to how we can align the Planning Commission to make sure the 5 commissioner representation is part of that appointment. So the proposed changes that we presented to the board and the board agreed to move forward within this process. The 9-member planning commission will remain the same in terms of the number. It will continue to operate under Chapter 36.63 of the RCW. And also the appointments will be different. It will be one member for each commissioner district. There will be 5 planning commission members, and 4 will be appointed at large. And we had a conversation as to how the at large appointments could be done. And also you will see they change the term to 4 years. And the intent is to stagger those appointments in 4 years to align with similar to what the Board of County Commissioners appointments are every 4 years. And just this is really the approach. The current members will remain on their seats until December 31st, 2023, and the terms will expire at that time. The existing planning commission members can reapply depending on the new makeup and the new organization of the planning commission, and the board will have to consider those appointments as we move along. The intent is come January 1st, 2024, the other 2 commissions will have a perspective as to what their recommendations will be, representations will be on their own districts, and that will complement this approach. Josh Cummings is here, I believe, to represent this item. He want to come and provide additional perspective and answer any questions the board may have.
Hello, Commissioners. Joshua Cummings, Director of Community Planning and Economic Development. The County Manager did a great job in summary, and working with the Assistant County Manager, Rob Gelder, I think that we've got a good plan moving forward so that the Board of County Commissioners is prepared to take this next step. I'm open to receive any questions.
Questions?
I don't think I have any questions at this time.
I don't have any questions. I think it was a majority of the board decided to move forward, and so I think that vote will be reflecting just that.
I guess the one thing I would add is the Planning Commission has been made aware of these next steps in the process, so if they have comment, then they're open to provide it at this public hearing.
Which is scheduled for your consideration September 19th, 2023.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, Public Works, 6A, set a public hearing for the 6-year transportation improvement program for 2024 through 2029.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The county engineer under RCW 3681-121 is required to present to the board a 6-year transportation improvement program, which he has done it and early in the year. And the next step is in the process for the Board of County Commissioners to hold a public hearing to receive public testimony related to the projects included on the transportation improvement program. This particular program needs to be approved in coordination with the budget, and the state law requires this program needs to be adopted prior to you adopting the budget itself. So this is to hold a public hearing on September 26, 2023 at 3:30 in the afternoon. And then the potential action for you to approve this program will be in coordination with the final budget approval, which I believe is scheduled for December 16th, 2023, if I recall well.
15.
15, thank you, that's a Friday. And Matt Anselman is here, the county engineer, to answer any questions, provide additional perspective.
Good morning, Commissioners. County Manager Matt Anselman, Thurston County Engineer. The County Manager did a fantastic job of summarizing that. The only thing I would add is that the briefing that he referenced in his summary was held on June 22nd. So if anybody has any questions, I would encourage them to get on the Thurston County YouTube site and review that briefing.
Thank you, Matt.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions, thank you.
No questions for me, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, and Sheriff's Office, item 7A, request for proposal, issuance awarding of contract for inmate employment services.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. The Sheriff's Office is requesting for you to consider authorizing the issuance of request for proposals for inmate employment services in the Thurston County Corrections Facility. The current contract for inmate employment services for Thurston County expires December 31st, 2023. And the Sheriff's Office is being proactive to make sure there is not a gap in services. And the request for proposals will result in a selection of a contractor. The current contractor who is providing those services at this point is the Pacific Mountain Workforce Development Council. And this is already included on the budget for the sheriff's office. And under sheriff, the person was here to add additional perspective and answer the questions the board may have.
Morning, Commissioners, County Manager. Take any questions you have on this.
Thank you, Under Sheriff. Questions?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
How long have we been doing business with Pacific Mountain Workforce?
I do not have that answer.
County Manager.
It's been years.
It's been a long
It's
time,
It's a
hasn't
long
it?
Right.
time. You know, but as part of a process, they need to resubmit a proposal in order for the board to continue the services. And that's the approach that we have. They, in the past, I think they have been selected to continue the services. I don't want to presume what the outcome of this request for proposals will be, but perhaps they have a good chance to continue the services with the county.
Okay. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. No questions for me, thank you. Okay, after that, we will review our standing items, and we do have a public hearing at 3:30. And it's a public hearing to hear objections to the proposed rule of rates and charges for Alpha Lake Management District Number 24.
Depending on the public testimony you may have at the public hearing, we'll follow up on a potential action by the board.
Thank you. Questions? Okay, we'll move on to proclamations and awards and advisory boards and commissions. Jamie Caldwell, clerk of the board.
Morning. For proclamations and awards, I have no updates. For advisory boards and commissions, the Fair Board has still continued to have applications trickle in. Currently, I'm at 6, and they would like to meet with the applicants at their next meeting next month. So it's the beginning of the month. So as soon as I have an update from them, I'll go ahead and bring everything forward for you to review. I'm still waiting for a response from the Racial Equity Council on the couple of applications I've received from them as well. But outside of any questions, that's all I have.
Questions, Commissioner Edwards?
No questions.
No questions from me, thank you. Next is PIO check-in.
Anna Rhodes, Public Information Officer, and I don't have any updates at this time.
Okay. Questions for?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
Break before the next item, Madam Chair.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a break because is Vice Chair Metzger's gonna join
Yeah,
us for that
hopefully we can.
conversation? Okay, so we'll go ahead and take a 15-minute break. That way he has a chance to join in. We're back from break. It is 10:50 a.m. and we left off with the ARPA funds, and this is a follow-up briefing from August 2nd.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a follow-up to the regular briefing that we have with the board. We provided expenditure update in August 2nd. The result of that briefing, staff is gonna come back for the board to make a couple of decisions. And we have lay out the process in terms of the available potential funds that you may have at your disposal related to the ARPA funds, and how the new request will come for your consideration. Staff, myself have some recommendations for you to consider. But ultimately, hopefully today you can provide direction as to how those should be moving forward. With that,
I'm gonna turn it over to Nicole.
So I'll share the screen so we can jump into this. So in your packet, it is the presentation page that says August 15th. So just to follow forward on what Romero spoke about, this is just a follow-up briefing to August 2nd's ARPA briefing to speak about potential funding that may be available for projects that came forward during our briefing. So today we'll talk about available reallocation and then what those potential projects are. So the first screen here is a table of expenses. It is a summarization of the table that you guys are used to seeing that just points out some of the areas where we found potential reallocation, available funding. That's page 3 of the August 15th briefing. And so the first line is for Thurston County website and staff support. You can see there that there is $33,000 that may be available for reallocation, and that is the last column. So the website has already been paid. This is what's left of what was approved. The next column or row there is emergency medical service staff, and you can see in the last column there that there's $25,000 available. And then affordable housing, we're seeing $2.1 million that may be available for reallocation. And this is outside of the contract that we already awarded. And so what has been approved and what's left of what has been obligated in contract.
so if I may pause on this line, and Madam Chair, Commissioners, the $825,547 expenditures that you see, those related to participating with the purchase of the land at Franz Anderson with the City of Olympia. The remainder, as Nicole stated, is the upcoming $3.5 million. I believe the board committed and the county committed to participate on building affordable housing on the same site. So all this is related to Franz Anderson. Yeah. But the result of that is additional capacity.
Okay.
Additional capacity as
For you to
number of
reallocate.
units?
No,
or- oh,
for you to reallocate the ARPA funds.
And so that means there's 2.1 left?
Right, on that line item, potentially, yes.
Okay, so we'll move on. Thurston County Agricultural Support is the next row. You can see that 500,000 is available there for reallocating. And then if we jump all the way down to administrative and other, you can see not yet allocated.
Oh, can I get
Yes.
back to that agriculture one? So we have not spent anything out of that?
So
Out of ag, out of the,
the way to read this is for the Thurston County Ag,
yeah,
there's 500,000 under consideration. And what we're suggesting here is you take all of that and make it available for other things. So the choice on this particular line is that you would not, you've got that project approved for $500,000. It's barely off the ground. And instead of keeping $500,000 to expand it, you would take that 500,000 and do something else.
But what about if, they need to do something there? The project is slow, but
They have capacity for $493,000.
They haven't spent yet.
Yeah. So
yeah,
this was the contract that we did with, that,
$500,000.
yeah, for the workforce development for
Yeah.
ag, and I believe they just started working with Pac Mountain. And they're like really just getting this program off the floor is kind of what I've heard,
so this is kind of going back to just in case they call for the funds back, so we'd have somewhere to.
So
Was it quick?
if you choose, you could choose to say, no, we're gonna leave that 500,000 available. If we want to expand that project in the next 2 years, that would take 500,000 away from what you have available to reallocate to other things.
Maybe taking you back to the initial conversation the board had on this line item. You set aside $1 million for agricultural support. The board approved getting $500,000 on the contract, and that's what Commissioner Mejia stated. And so there is and the board made a determination that you don't want to commit all the $1 million at this point because it gives you that capacity to do something else with the remainder $500,000. Out of the $500,000 that you already approved for this program, they have only spent $6,800. So they still have capacity to move forward on the program they have already in place. The board authorized. The staff is recommended for you to take the remaining $500,000 and explore other options for reallocation.
Okay, so now we're really talking about $1 million having been
Right.
there.
Right.
Yeah, okay, so we're keeping 5 or 493 or
Right, and then,
whatever.
yeah.
Okay, got it.
Commissioner Mensah, are you good? Are you clear? Are you tracking?
Yes, ma'am.
Continue.
So then, if we jump down to not yet allocated underneath administrative and other, there is $696,140 that has not been allocated yet, that we could also put in the potential area. That gives us a total of 3.3, almost $3.4 million that could be reallocated.
Can I ask a question on the administrative expenses? Is that the funding that we used a bucket for, like, the auditors off, like, when we were trying to, like, for that?
It's administrative staff for the money and the programs.
Yeah.
That's Diana Aaron's. The board approved a staff person in the auditor's office.
Okay,
It also pays for the evaluation cost. It's paid for the additional janitorial services that
okay,
we were, I mean, it's the admin end of the thing.
okay, thank you. That's kind of,
Here's the first row underneath administrative and other, we have that program, so this is what's left over after you've taken all that into consideration, which Robin spoke to. So I'll go on to the next slide.
So the bottom line, if I may, staff has brought for your consideration, $3,377,370 they may be available for you to reallocate. So please keep that number in mind, and then we'll move into the next slide. I will ask for your direction at this point. Let me frame that conversation, if I may. First, it will be, the proposed to move from the proposed to the approved, or from the approved to under consideration. This really doesn't have an effect on the bottom line numbers, just moving from one column to another, meaning you have set aside and we ask to move into the approved category. Then we talk about expanding of existing programs, and as you have one as the substance abuse monitoring, and then we'll move into the new projects. I do have a perspective on that, on the new projects, and when you give me the floor, I will provide that perspective. Well, I can give my perspective right now, but
Commissioner Mensah has his hand up, by the way.
oh, okay, Commissioner Mensah, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'm confused on that chart. I understood all the items except for affordable housing. I thought you were describing that money going toward Franz Anderson, and now you're saying we wouldn't spend any more on Franz Anderson?
No.
Why is there 2.1 for affordable housing there?
No, I'm sorry if I misspoke, Commissioner. What I'm trying to say is the initial investment, the county participated with the city of Lynn to purchase that property is already an expenditure. And we're already trying to set aside the $3.5 million the board committed to build affordable housing. When combined the two, the investment on both, purchasing the land and the $3.5 million to build affordable housing is still a remainder of 2.1 million.
Okay, so we don't need, so Franz Anderson does not require that 2.1 million.
No, at this point.
All right, got it.
Because as you may recall, the affordable housing conversation the board had, it was specifically related to Franz Anderson. The Franz Anderson on the development of the tiny homes, and I think it's an open house coming up. That was also intended to use portions of this money, but we used the money from the right-of-way initiative that came from the state, which alleviated the pressure on this fund. That makes sense?
Yep, I'm with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alright, so the first bucket that Romero was speaking to is proposal to move from approved from under consideration. So that is row 7.1A. So I'm gonna flip back to the allocated slide here. In 7.1A, we're asking to take the amount from under consideration, the 1.2, and move it into the approved. So that is not affecting the 3.4 million that's shown there. That's just moving from under consideration over to approved. That's the first.
That allows us to continue the positions that the board has authorized, and to continue to pay for the evaluation and then all the miscellaneous things that we still continue to have to do. Reporting and all those kinds of things. It's the admin end.
Should I move on?
So I will ask direction on that line item, please.
Can we do like all of them and then we can come back and make a
Okay,
decision?
that's fair.
Okay, so then the next bucket is proposal to expand the substance abuse monitoring program to add another $90,000 this year.
So it changed from 125 to 90?
Yes, so we had actuals to date and we saw their spending rate, and based on what was available in that line, plus this 90, they will have enough to cover their expenses for this year.
Okay.
And then the next bucket here is proposal for new ARPA projects.
I can probably take those. We briefly explained to the board the $1.6 million investment on the Medic One vehicles. And that really is gonna be, I believe, a good investment to alleviate the pressures on the Medic One fund down the road. Because when we were looking at the financial plan and the investment they have, a one-time investment really is gonna help on the long term. I don't wanna go back to, the assumptions that we made when this particular measure passed and the revenues that were generated, they were supposed to be generated based on the staff's perspective. That's not materializing. But I believe this is a good investment for you to consider to purchase vehicles, Medic One vehicles on this. There's already a contract in place. And so this will just supplement the money the Medic One is funding with ARPA funds. The next item, the $600,000 affordable housing is for Queens Street operations. My recommendation at this point for the board not to consider this item until the City of Olympia make the case in front of the Regional Housing Council. I believe this item needs to be addressed at the regional level and it include all the jurisdictions. Because it's not just about the operating cost of Queen Street this year. It has to be the operating cost on the long term. And the long-term investment, the operating cost for Quincy Street needs to be addressed at the Regional Housing Council, perhaps not necessarily at the county level. And the next item, the 47,500, that's the Thurston County Construction Corps through the chambers. My recommendation is for you not to consider this item because the chambers have already received funding from Department of Commerce. That's my suggestions on all of them.
Is that the 47,000?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay, questions on any of these projects, either the under consideration, the expanding existing projects, or the new ARPA projects? Commissioner Edwards.
The substance abuse monitoring project. What does that consist of? I'm drawing a blank right now.
That's the district court program for
Got-
the
oh,
scram.
The scram devices.
Got it. Okay, I'm good.
Yeah, and this would get them through the end of this year. They have a budget request to continue it in future years.
And that's a good point, but I think from my perspective, I think this program has been successful. And I think the board needs to engage in a conversation as to how you can explore this program in the long term beyond the ARPA funds of this year. I think it brings value. I do believe it brings value to the overall system. But then where we can find the savings as a result of this process and how that savings can continue to fund this program. So the conversation should occur, if I may, during your budget deliberations this fall.
Commissioner Edward, or Commissioner Menzer. Are you done?
I think I'm okay with these suggestions. One thing though is, you know, this whole issue with the Medic One vehicles is because of the I don't know what to call it, but the fact that the ballot measure is not bringing in the calculated revenue that the board believed it was authorizing when it placed that measure on the ballot. We never got an explanation as to who dropped the ball where, and I'm gonna need at some point, it's not gonna be today, but I do think the board needs to hear, I mean, it's our job to make sure nothing like that ever happens again. And it's not clear to me where the mistake happened. So that's something I'm gonna wanna see because it's a bitter pill to swallow to have to shift money at this scale to this, which was completely unnecessary had we been able to accurately affect the ballot measure that we were attempting to affect. I don't know how else to say it, but I have a lot of questions about that, but given the situation we're in, I see why the proposal is being made.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's fair assessment, Commissioner. Staff will bring that conversation to you with additional information. Thank you for that.
And just to follow up on that, we're talking about that where, was it attorneys from Commerce, from the Attorney General's office, there was some miscommunication and supposedly certain amount of money was gonna be raised to be able to do this or that, but they said no, there was a mistake on the
So,
ballot proposal or.
More to come on that, Commissioner. The bottom line is, we as a staff made the wrong projections as to how the revenue is going to be generated.
Okay, well, just more to come.
I-
It's too
I-
complicated.
I don't know
to get
how else
into.
I can state. I think we
Yeah.
as a staff made the wrong projections on the revenue. And we'll get into more details because what Commissioner Menzer said is on point.
Okay,
And you deserve to hear a little more detail on that, more to come on that.
okay.
Thank you. Okay. So we'll go ahead and move with the decision process. The first one is to propose to approve from under consideration the 575,000, which is 7.1A line, the administrative expenses. Commissioners, how do you feel? Commissioner Edwards?
With it.
Commissioner Menzer?
So I originally thought that when I think it was Nicole, was describing it as 1.2 million, moving it over, but this says we're moving 575.
That is correct. It's the 1.2 under consideration, 575 would come out of that.
Of that, okay. Yeah, I'm okay.
So can I ask a follow-up? Is the idea that the rest of the 1.2 would be used for the Medic One vehicles or?
No, we would leave the remainder there under consideration, as we go. If there are any additional administrative costs we need, that's where it would come from.
But also is the evaluation component.
Yeah, it's the evaluation is
That
the
is
big,
really, and we have partnered with the EDC to help us on the evaluation because that's a requirement by the federal government under this fund.
So then
So
it would
we-
leave around 625,000.
Yeah, and
roughly.
based on the rate of expenditures, we'll bring another decision point as
If we get closer to the end of this thing and determine that it's not needed, then it would be available to you at a future date.
So that 3.4 really is not 3.4 because that 1.2, we're only really taking 500
There
and.
could be in the future, as we evaluate our needs, there could be a little more from there. And really, if you think about this document's really a 3-page document that we skinnied down to show you that right now we know that this money is available to you. As we go, other monies may become freed up from other projects as they are completed and maybe didn't cost as much as we think they did. So this, as of today, right now, you've got almost 3.4 million available.
Minus that 696, 140 that I'm seeing.
Minus the.
Including that.
That's including.
No, that doesn't affect the 3.4 at all.
Well, but it's gonna be still under the administrative, like we're,
No, it's two line items on the administrative. Is the administrative expenses is, you see the 1.2 million, 1,272,000 column
so the not yet allocated is a different
is a different line.
Yeah.
item.
line.
That's a different bucket.
And so that's funding that we have not,
You've not ever earmarked that amount for
Okay.
anything.
okay, thank you, that was my confusion.
Are we kind of headed in some way to, I don't know, bail out the REIT fund or something like that with what's left?
Yeah, we can't do that.
Can't do that.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay,
Good.
so thumbs up for me for the
admin expenses.
admin expenses, so
3-0.
3-0. Okay, next is the proposed to expand existing ARPA projects, which is the 90,000 from the substance abuse monitoring project through 2023. And where is that 90,000 coming from?
From the
It would just be
3.4.
part of that $3.4 million pot of money, if you will.
Okay. Commissioner Edwards?
I'm okay.
Commissioner Menzer?
I'm in favor of this, at least through this year. I did check in with Director of Public Defense after our last work session, who assured me the program is working largely as we intended and having a lot of positive effects. So I'd like to keep it going.
As a piece of that, is the fact that the jail's not using the EM system anymore, is that gonna affect this?
Well, maybe answering the different.
I'm still
question.
with you, I just wondered that question.
So the cause and effect of this is allowing, providing individuals another option before they go to jail. That's really the program in a
Okay,
way.
okay, good enough, different.
And I think the board engages on that conversation, during the budget process, what options you will have, because by eliminating individuals going into the jail, there's a savings in there.
Sure, okay.
And that provides, opportunities and options for the board. Just gonna leave it there.
Commissioner Edwards reminded me of something. I believe what I learned was that the jail has not reopened the options program. So that's according to Public Defense Director, that's a critical reason why we need to continue this, because it's kind of serving as a surrogate of sorts.
That's interesting.
If I may, just for tracking purposes, we will need to know what line to take the 90,000 out.
We'll figure that out. We can figure that out.
Yeah,
That's
We
not,
don't need that on the record.
that's not
for-
something that the board wants to know.
So what I'm hearing, the 3 votes on the 90,000 additional for the scram devices.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so for the proposed new ARPA projects, there's 3 options: the Medic One vehicles, the affordable housing for Quinn Street, and the Thurston County Construction Corps.
I'm good.
You want all 3 of them? Or what? What do you say?
Well, are
I'm
we
good?
gonna go down one and I'm
Okay.
Do 'em
the
one
first
by
bullet
one.
point.
I
I'm
was
good.
like, I was just like, what does I'm good mean?
My
Do 'em one by
recommendation
one.
to the board was.
Yeah, where the
to
2 of them were no and 1 was.
Consider the 1.6 million for Medic One and.
And
we'll
the other
bring
2
back
were
additional
no
Information.
for now.
The $600,000, I think the conversation needs to occur at the Regional Housing Council. My
Lipkin
request
needs to
for
take
it
some action on that.
No action idle on that. And perhaps the 47,500 for the construction corps, for you.
The chambers.
Not to consider.
I mean, well, that's what I mean. I'm with you. 1, no, and bullet point 1, okay, bullet point 2 and 3, no. Isn't that what you recommended?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. I'm good.
Commissioner Menzer.
I'm good.
I'm good with the 1.6 Medic One vehicles. I do agree with Commissioner Menzer that we have to have a conversation about this. With the 600,000, I would ask that the board at least reconsider or have this back on. For me, how I see it, right, we did set that funding aside for affordable housing, and France Anderson did cost less, but you know, we have that funding available for an affordable housing project. Quinn Street is helping out on a regional basis, and I feel like when Quinn Street started, it did start out rocky, and again, the regional council, housing council hadn't really found their own stepping at that time, so relations were really tense between the jurisdictions, and so as we move forward, and you know, we've done a great job at kind of communicating better with each other, and just in the kind of spirit to keep that alive, you know, if the board does not want to move forward at this time, I would ask that at least it be still considered at a later date.
I thought that's what you had proposed, that it would be, almost what,
Yeah, exactly what you stated, Madam Chair, is to perhaps idle on this decision, because I believe the board needs to hear what the recommendations from the Regional Housing Council in managing the operations of this site on the long term. If the ARPA fund $600,000 bridge the gap somehow, I think that's in the purview of the commissioners. But I believe you deserve to hear from the Regional Housing Council and the City of Olympia, what is the long-term strategy to fund the operations of this site? Because this 600,000 request is not gonna get us there in the long term. And that is my suggestion for you to consider this decision idle until you hear from the Regional Housing Council.
So for the Medic One vehicles, you got
I got it.
3-0.
Yeah.
And then the affordable housing, we'll bring it back.
Yeah.
And then for the Thurston County Construction Corps,
I'm gonna follow the county manager's recommendation.
so that's a no.
Yeah.
Commissioner Menzer,
I'm gonna follow the recommendation also.
that's a no, okay. So it'll be a no for me too.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're letting us off the hook now?
That's all for ARPA at the
For,
moment.
that's, so that will
Stop sharing
conclude
it.
the ARPA conversation. Thank you. Okay, and so next we'll be moving on to executive session.
Yeah, if Maria and Cameron are listening, can you please come down?
Nicole, is this weather satisfying for you are you used to it or
I
getting
love
back in the
it.
swing of things?
Like, I really do love it, because like when it's really hot, then you'll have like 3 days or so later, it'll be like rainy. So it's like a nice break from the heat. I like it a lot.
Okay, we are back from closed session, per RCW 42.30.140 subsection 4A to, collective bargaining sessions, or be that portion of a meeting during which the governing body is planning or adopting the strategy or position to be taken by the governing body during the course of any collective bargaining. Bargaining contracts, it is 12:09, no commissioners' action follows. We are adjourned. Thank you.